which is it's called Planning Working Party. And hold on, something's just come up on my screen. So, Colin, can we? We are live. Okay, thank you very much. Right, item 1, which is welcome, and to note that this working party has no delegated authority. Sorry, and may only make recommendations to full council. Urgent action may be taken under delegated authority given to the clerk and the chair. Thank you, everyone. And item 2, which is apologies for absence. Is there any apologies for absence?
I haven't personally received any.
I think we're all there, aren't we?
We don't have Councillor Stinchcombe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Right. Okay. Item 3, which declarations of pecuniary interest and request for dispensation. Anyone? No. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. Which is page 236. Are you trying to get
those on screen? I can put them on screen if you wish.
Yes, please. Because there is one there, I think, that Vicky. Yeah, I can only see one. Okay, 236. This is the matters arising. This is P21-136, P21/125, plan conditions. Members vote to reply to R. Ireland. Did Vicky say anything?
Yes, you did. She forwarded me the email trail, and she wrote back on the 19th of August, and she's had no response to her email.
Right. Okay. Is there any comments on this? Anyone? Oh.
Can I just say that I think Rachel's been on holiday for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, right. I thought that could be the case. Okay, right. 237. Three. Yep, sorry. Any comments? Councillor Burns again?
138, it says that Councillor Brown proposed, but there's no second or any resolution on that, although it was done during the meeting.
Oh dear.
Perhaps we can ask Alicia to just check the recording and add in whoever seconded that to the as an amendment to these minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Burns. That was well spotted. Anyone else? No. 239. Two neutrals. 240. Or is that 41? No, 240. Object and 2 neutrals.
Chair, Councillor Stinchcombe's just arriving.
Okay. I'll wait until he comes online before we go to the next page. Good evening, Councillor Stinchcombe. Are you there?
Yes, yeah. I am. Have you got
right.
me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yes,
I did try and apologise for my late arrival. I've only just managed to break out of another meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Right, we're just on the minutes now. We're on page 240. Okay,
Thank you.
and 241. Which is 2 objections and 1 neutral. And 242, which is 1 neutral. Anyone on that? No. And that's it. Right, back to the agenda. Hold on. I've switched off a bit. That's it. Okay. Which is, I should have had a vote, actually. I never had a vote on them. I should have had a vote. I do apologise for those minutes. And that was in matters arising was what we've just done. So I should go back to 4 minutes of the previous meeting. May I have a proposer and a seconder for that? Proposed Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Dave Smith. All those in favour, please show those minutes. Thank you. Right, we're on number 6 now. Street naming applications. Application, I should say, to respond to street naming application submitted by Charlie Glasswell for roads in northwest Haverhill. Now, I presume this is Michael and Christine, and I might be wrong, and Annie and Brad on this. Yes, is that Brad wants to talk on this? And Annie? Okay, if you'd like to unmute, please.
We will speak on the next issue, not on the road naming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anne and Brad? No? You've got to unmute first.
Hang on.
Ah,
Yeah, no,
you're
it's
fine
next.
now.
Also on the next issue.
Oh, it's also on the next issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Is any councillors got anything on this one at all? Councillor Burns, I think we've already suggested names, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I don't know where we stand with the World War I names. You know, have we utilised them all? Every time we get this come up, a different person at West Suffolk seems to get involved, and they eventually come and say, "Oh, we've got," you know, there was quite a few. I think there was something like 70. I can't. Councillor Brown may remind me on this. I can't find the list at the moment. I thought there's quite a lot of unique names, some of which we can't use because, like, I think Turner, for example. But that's certainly something, you know, needs to be verified that they've exhausted all the other names. But equally, there's a lot of roads on Northwest Haverhill, so I don't know what sort of source we're going to come up with next, if you know what I mean, as a bulk source, if you like, if we come up with anything at all.
Well, if we're thinking of something else, what about Afghanistan and Iraq?
Yeah,
Was there anyone killed in Haverhill?
No, the only one we've got is Northern Ireland. One person from Northern Ireland who actually didn't come from here anyway. It's just his relation lives here now.
Oh, right. It has to be someone really that lived in Haverhill, maybe.
Or surrounding villages, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, surrounding villages. Okay. Is there any other comments from anyone else? Colin, Councillor Brown.
Sorry, yeah. If we're looking for names, I suggest we've got a lot of RAF, Czechoslovakian, New Zealander aircrew in Haverhill Cemetery. I think it'd be a nice tribute to actually name some of those roads after those guys in Haverhill Cemetery. Yeah, they're buried in Haverhill. They gave their lives to fighting for freedom. Yeah, I would totally like to see that happen.
Okay, that's a proposal. Yeah, is that a proposal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's proposing that. Yes.
Right. Okay. Can we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Davison. All those in favour, please show. Yep, that's everyone. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Crooks. Yeah.
You're going to submit them names, then, are you, Tony? So they know what they are.
Yeah, I'll have to go and have a look. But I think, to be fair, Charmaine and Brian and the Haverhill History group have got all those names anyway. So hopefully we can just get in touch with Charmaine and Brian and yeah.
I think I might actually have them, Chair, myself.
Yeah.
If I haven't, if you like, I'll contact. I've got to talk to Charmian anyway about the remembered, so I'm quite happy to get the list of, and they may come up with some other ideas as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Fountain of knowledge.
Councillor Sitchcombe.
Just a thought that a bomber went down between Great Willsey Farm and Keddington, didn't it? I think crashed on takeoff from wherever. Presumably, we'd like to, if they ever feature, we'd like to reserve them for northeast Haverhill rather than northwest, wouldn't we? You know, but otherwise, sounds like a really good idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you for that. Right. Item 7, which is for members of the public to speak on planning matters other than applications before the working party. If you wish to speak, please make yourself known to the clerk before meeting commences. Colin, have you got their names of the people that are here now?
It would be useful just because Vicky obviously knows them, but if they can just mention their surnames so we do have them, although we don't normally actually record them in the minutes in any case, but it'd be useful for reference.
Okay, right. Okay. Members of the public, I saw Michael and Christine's hand. I saw Christine's first and then Michael, so sort it out. Who's going to speak first? Is it Michael?
I'm afraid it's me. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear.
Fine. Good evening, all.
Good evening. If you can say your surname, please.
Michael Ford.
Ford, right. And is that Mrs. Ford as well?
It is, yes.
Right, Christine, right. Thank you.
Regretfully, we were unable to attend the last meeting of the working party as we were away. However, we did manage to catch up via YouTube. This is something that I appreciate and applaud the Town Council for, as it ensures that the democratic process is open to everybody. Unlike West Suffolk Development Control Committee, whose last meeting, which approved Phase 2B of the Persimmon development, was limited on access and not streamed via Zoom as per previous meetings. This information was not available until the agenda was put online a few days before the meeting. As it was held at West Suffolk's own offices, there should be no reason why meetings cannot be streamed live. Having read through the approval decision, I noted that the standard clauses re working times and practice were not stated. I know the working party discussed this recently regarding smaller developments. Phase 2B is a major development and those details should have been included. Just to demonstrate this, there's a lot of soil moving going on currently, generally consisting of large earth movers going continuously around the site with other heavy machinery. This repetitive noise is continuous every day, and this week included all day Saturday. Whilst the planning permission listed noise levels inside and outside of the development once built, it seems the neighbouring community is completely ignored. Outline planning permission required certain steps to be taken before development, including parking, site access, road cleaning, etc. The end of Anne Suckling Road is already being used as a car park. Probably only 4 to 5 vehicles at the moment, but this is before building works gets underway. We have also noted deliveries being made via Anne Suckling Road. This is probably the start of major parking issues on this road. This also leads to my next comment. We have lived on Boyton Hall for 38 years. Indeed, we're the first to move in on the second stage. During this time, various plans for Anne Suckling Road were discussed. Eventually, it was decided that a new bypass would be built along the line of the present proposal, allowing development of a new estate being northwest Haverhill. Anne Suckling Road would connect with this development by means of restricted access for buses and emergency vehicles. This was to prevent the road being used as a rat run. This was in the local plan and should have been in the design code. The problem is that by breaking this development down into stages, it cannot be looked at as a whole. Access to phase 1 should have been from the new site road from the new roundabout. Persimmon then put in a new application to access phase 1 from Ratting Road. During the recent gas works, this has only exacerbated the problem of trying to get out of both estates. With this new application, which creates a loop from Ratting Road onto the new school without a drop-off for the school. This is all contrary to policy DM2, which says design must maintain or enhance the safety of the highway network, and DM46, which seeks to reduce over-reliance on the car. This design goes back to a previously rejected plan of using Anne Suckling Road as a bypass. It will effectively create an alternate bypass and will definitely become the bypass if Persimmon fail their legal requirements and do not meet them in a timely manner. I was disappointed that the objection raised by the committee did not reflect neither the tone or content of the last meeting. I understand that we need to enter our formal objections, but would have appreciated more backing from the Town Council in writing. Estates on this side of town are standalone with interconnection by foot or cycle. This creates a safer environment for everybody, diminishing the need for journeys by car. Opening up of Anne Suckling Road is a prime case of reserved matters eroding the original vision of plans that have already been accepted. Following on from this are my concerns about accessibility to phase 6. How are Persimmon going to access this? Heavy lorries along Anne Suckling Road. The junction with Ratting Road is becoming very dangerous even now, with parked cars and the new Persimmon houses. Meeting an oncoming car approaching the junction of Anne Suckling Road is a problem now. You just hope a lorry is not coming the other way. There will also be an issue of the new estate at Boyton Meadows, which exits onto Anne Suckling Road. Plans on paper never reflect real life and its problems. What is a problem in Haverhill never seems to be addressed either Bury St Edmunds or Ipswich. Seems that Haverhill is a forgotten town. Can I just go on to say something about the proposed green space or the football pitches? I refer to the comments from Sports England, and I've made some inquiries myself today, which reveals that there's probably no requirements for mini soccer pitches in the town, as current facilities in the town are not maximised. The toilet facilities would be far better than changing rooms, which are not required for mini soccer. Open green space, play facilities for younger children, and provision of facilities, particularly for 13 to 18-year-old age group, are currently lacking. These are desperately needed within Haverhill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I heard you mentioned that town council hadn't written a letter. Can you sort of, because we had on our last meeting on item 6 and item 8, we did put objections through. I just wondered what you meant by not writing the letter before we sort of go on to the next person.
Sorry, I've looked at the objection from the council on the West Suffolk portal, and my personal feeling, it doesn't reflect the tone of the meeting. There's nothing mentioned, for example, about Anne Suckling Road being opened up in the way that Persimmons have suggested.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but the thing is, what we said on that is, in addition to previous notes during previous discussions, and we put this is an addition, and we put lack of bike racks. I'm just wondering if we put that sort of thing on the previous minutes, and then that was item 6 on the minutes, and item 8. We put object as previous discussion again, and this was proposed by Councillor Brown, Councillor Smith, and seconded by Councillor Smith. So them sort of things could have been included on our previous minutes. And I see what you mean. I know what you're saying. I'm not sure if we have included that on the previous minutes, because my memory doesn't serve that sort of thing. Sorry. I'm just sort of hoping on that a councillor or even Collins can help me out on this sort of thing.
Sorry, what I'd like to say is that when you look at the West Suffolk portal and you receive the comments from the consultees, the comments from the town council are, in my opinion, didn't reflect what was discussed at the meeting. And one of the major issues discussed at the meeting was Anne Suckling Road.
Right, Colin, can you sort of help out on this sort of thing?
We'd have to actually check the what was written. As you say, there's a sequential process going on. So if the issues around Anne Suckling Way have not yet been satisfied, then saying that our previous objections have not been satisfied would cover that. But I do accept what Mr. Ford has said, that in his opinion, he doesn't feel it's done that, but without actually going back onto the portal and going through the individual comments. It's difficult for me because I then have to compare them with the recordings of the meetings. So it's not something I can do on the hoof.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about which planning application we're talking about. Are we talking about the one that's now been approved, which is for phase 2B? Or are we talking about, I think it's 1452, which is the infrastructure plan for the entire site, which is still currently under discussion by West Suffolk, hasn't been approved or anything like that yet?
Michael Ford?
Yes, I was referring back to the discussion you had at the last meeting, which was the 1452, okay, and also the planning application for the playing fields.
Yeah,
playing fields loosely.
Yeah. Okay. Neither of those have been approved or rejected yet. The comments in the minutes. Remember that on page 237, 238, that is added to what is in the table on list B at the bottom.
Sorry, I was referring to the objection on the West Suffolk portal when you look at the actual development 1452.
Right, okay.
For a layperson who would look at the portal and to review the comments on there, I didn't feel that the comments from the town council were strong enough, as from my opinion, of what you discussed at the meeting. In particular, you were very vociferous about whether Anne Suckling Road should be opened and whether there should be restrictions on that road. And obviously, we are very concerned that this road is not opened as a general rule.
Okay. Well, in terms of the road opening,
yeah, I will come to you. And Brad.
Yeah, I think in terms of the road opening, that's a sort of another issue in the sense that it was agreed. Looking back on previous documents, but that is, you know, as you rightly say, I argued quite strongly about it. I think one of the problems I can see looking at the thing on the portal, which I haven't looked at, the comments as they are, I tend to download them as and when I can. You're probably quite right. Is that the minutes of the meeting should probably have been included in all that, because what's on the portal is perhaps not what is in the minutes of the meeting we've got here. So that may be something that the town clerk or Vicky, when she returns, can rectify perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else want to speak on that particular item? Thank you. Right. Next is Anne and Brad. Can you say your surname, please, when you come on? Thank you.
Yeah, surname is Stratton.
Stratton, right.
Stratton. S-T-R-A-C-H-A-N.
Right. Thank you.
I have a copy of what's on the portal if you want to hear it. If that would help.
Yeah, if you can, please. Yeah, it don't look like there's a lot there, but
okay.
Yeah.
It basically says it's comments, and then it says it's an objection, and then it says councillors were concerned that removing the drop-off point to the school would be a disastrous mistake. Haverhill already has similar issues in town with existing schools, where estates are overrun with cars during school drop-off and pick-up times. Other concerns were whether the loop road could be moved so there would be no loss of hedge, and whether the loop road from Anne Suckling Road should remain a bus route only. I mean, I would agree with Mike, really, that it doesn't say anything like you said in the meeting. It doesn't even get on the page, really, I think.
Colin, can we sort of write in again? I think you just sort of mentioned that, didn't you?
We can add comments in until such time as they close the book on comments. So if councillors feel that the original comments didn't fully reflect that, then obviously Alicia will be picking up what's being said today, and we can pick that up and add additional comments in. There's no difficulty with that at all.
Lovely. Right. Do we need a proposer and a seconder, a vote on it?
Well, I think it would be useful because at the moment, with the greatest respect of the residents who've consistently turned out to these meetings and really have kind of flown the flag on this particular issue, I do need to know that the councillors agree that they do wish to actually say that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lucrini?
Yeah, I might be getting confused here, but the comments we made about the road were in response to a presentation by Persimmon and not a response to a planning application.
Right, well, then that's more important that we do, if we want it, that we do need to put it in, don't we?
Yeah, but the planning application was just about the football pitches. So that's why our response on the West Suffolk Council portal is just about the sports pitches and not about the road, because it was only the presentation we received that included the new road layout, but that hasn't been brought forward as a planning application, or may have only just been brought forward as a planning application. I don't think we've commented on that yet.
Right. Thanks for that. Right, so obviously if it comes forward, then we need to comment then at that particular time. Is that correct, Councillor Lucrini? Do you think that's the case? Councillor Burns, I see you put your... Right, okay. Councillor Burns?
There were two applications last time.
Yeah.
One was for the sports pitches and one was for the infrastructure. Yes, we had the presentation on both, actually. Quite extensive one on the infrastructure. We would talk about, you know, drainaways, and that was the one where I mentioned about the which has been mentioned also about the Anne Suckling Road access, and I always thought it was only going to be a bus route only. And I know other councillors may have different ideas, but that's what I thought from the outline and the master plan going back to 2009. But in the minutes, we obviously what happened, I think, in the minutes is we, you know, the committee discussed in quite depth all those items, and perhaps what should have happened is that should have been translated into the comments. But at the time, I believe, and you'd have to check back on the recording, you only voted on what was sent back to West Suffolk as such. So you may need to, you know, as Colin says, relook at it again.
Okay. Councillor Dave Smith? Sorry, Councillor Smith, I didn't see that little hand up there.
Yeah, could I just ask Brad what the reference number is for that application? Because as Councillor Green is saying, I know we had the presentation from Persimmon, but I don't remember us actually commenting on it as an application per se, and because the work we did give various reasons why we objected to it. But looking at the number that Michael gave, that is just relating to the sports pitches. So yeah,
So
I'm really confused.
So is item 8 on the minutes? Item 8 and part B, sorry, just to interrupt, sorry.
Right, okay. Is that what you was going to say, Michael? Right, it was. Right, thank you. So we do need to reconfirm. Oh, Councillor Cooney, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, so it's planning application DC 200614RM. And on that one, we commented, councillors were concerned that removing the drop-off point to the school would be disastrous for Stake, having already had similar issues in town with existing schools where estates are overrun. Then we also put about we're concerned about the loop road.
So that's Anne Suckling Place, Anne Suckling Road then, the loop road.
Sorry, the number again, Aaron?
That's DC 200614RM.
061.
Because the loop road is definitely what we call Anne Suckling Road, isn't it?
Yeah, so other concerns were whether the loop road could be moved so there would be no loss of hedge, and whether the loop road from Anne Suckling's Road should remain a bus route only.
Sorry, Chair, the loop road is not Anne Suckling Road.
It's not.
The loop road is the internal one to the estate.
That's why I said it a couple of times, just to sort of get it confirmed. Yeah, and we haven't mentioned about the increased parking, have we? As well. I just want to get it plain that what we haven't commented on. That's the thing. And even though on that second one, separate application, there's no harm in us adding to that particular one, is it? On parking in Anne Suckling Close, is there? There's no harm at all in that, is there, Colin?
No, obviously, I mean, it's difficult because on the last meeting we had a presentation on one matter and two planning applications on very similar but different other matters. And I guess it's trying to make sure that we don't forget what was said earlier in the meeting when councillors are considering a specific planning application. But you're absolutely right, and I would kind of say, I think what Councillor Burns said is correct. That we can say if we talk about something earlier in a meeting, we need to try and remember to bring that forward so this also picked up. So that Vicky's got a very clear instruction from councillors that the discussion earlier in the meeting should also be reflected in the comments that are made back. And in terms of the scope of the comments we make, well, clearly, if we comment on matters that are not within a particular planning application, those comments are no longer are not going to be taken into account because they can't be, because they're not appropriate. But that doesn't mean that they in any way take away from everything else that was said. So from a belt and braces point of view, it's better to say more about a planning application than the planners can actually use than say less. So I think that we just need to be really clear when we have a presentation from Persimmon or whoever else it might be in the future, to whether any of those comments made earlier we need to actually take into account if there's a relevant planning application. Because at least once we've said it, we've said it.
Thank you for that. Right, sorry, we're going back to, is there anyone else on that particular subject? I'll come back to you now, Anne and Brad. Please, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Okay, good. I don't want to take much more of your time because we've been talking about this for a while. But I'd like to say also, sorry we couldn't attend. We didn't know about the last meeting. And we did look at it online, like Mike and Chris, and we're very appreciative of the very clear messages you gave about the use of Ansuckling Road, the thought about the football pitches and all kinds of other issues. And I don't want to take too much time, but basically, you know, Ansuckling Road has been an issue for a long, long time. Residents around here have always been under the impression it would never be opened as a road after the Relief Road was moved, including people who bought houses here on the back of that, after checking with plans as best they could, and also even going to Persimmon themselves and having consultation when the first phase 1 was opened and the sales room was opened. I've got one person up the street who went and talked to everybody and they're told it would not be the through road. Concerns obviously about the through road. It's dangerous at the junction. It's not necessary to be part of this plan. It's just a convenient way for Persimmon yet again to erode what they're doing all the time is changing the goalpost. It doesn't seem to us to be necessary. It's been agreed it could be a bus route and that would be good. But why all the rest of it? And it would become a rat run, even with calming measures. It's a short distance from the end of here to there. That would not deter anybody using that as a shortcut. So we feel it's very unacceptable. That was one of the main things. Also, the point about 6B, how will that be accessed when it's being built? If they haven't built the Relief Road without using Ansuckling Road. That was another point.
We can't hear you, Brad, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, we have been assured on a number of occasions that there would definitely be no delivery wagons coming down this road. And yet, you know, last week it started. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Persimmon also said they'll keep us informed of what they're doing. So we came back from holiday, we knew there was going to be some development to discover something about probably 30, 20 feet in that air, right outside our back door with bulldozers on the top all day going along. People on the street saying, what's going on? Persimmon said they would do newsletter drops or keep people informed. As far as I'm aware, there's been nothing. So they're not regarding local people very much. The other big thing was about the football pitches and the play area. You clearly stated as councillors, you've got the point straight away about we need football pitches like this. It seems like from what Mike said, after just discussing with someone who knows all about this, that it's not being used properly in the area. What we're very short of though is open green areas. We've always said it, it's the same, it's still there, nobody's listening to that apart from you. You are listening. Ipswich, West Suffolk don't seem to listen to this. We need open spaces, and so I've just read this about play areas if you don't mind, if I can get it to it quickly. Is it necessary to have two football pitches or appear not? It looks like this has to be enough, hasn't been enough consultation about this. A container for a changing room doesn't sound very good. Really, toilets would be so much more useful than that, and that's what Schools England's saying that toilets or Sports England is more preferable to have toilets and changing areas. That's what they say. So basically, the playground is too small. What is needed for this, the community, is an open green area with some landscaping, a place for people to meet, have a picnic, play informally, perhaps one all sports pitch, I'm not sure about that. A playground that is gated with a good gradation of scale and design of play equipment for different ages, so you don't have the problem with toddlers can play here but nobody else. And I think that's really what we should be aiming for. I've talked about the planning, and also there's not very much about the attenuation basin or the allotments, but you know what landscaping is happening there and ensuring that the parking allocated for that is bollarded so only people can park there who are using the allotments. But presumably that's going to come later. We're never quite sure at what point we need to speak. But can I just say, we do really appreciate what the council said at the last meeting, and we do feel you've got a really good hold on this about, you know, how you're looking at what's going on. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Obviously, we've got a vote on the particular one that Michael brought up. Is there any on that that you think that we've missed out on what you just said, Anne?
What we're voting on? What he said? What Mike said?
Yeah. Other than what Michael said, is there anything what you just said that we've missed out on?
I think just emphasising that the use of an open playground and the idea of not just a playground for small people, but it should be age. You know, we've all been there when you've got a 3-year-old and then a 6 or 7-year-old is not allowed to play on that equipment or whatever. And can I also add, if you go to Bridgend in Saffron Walden, they've got exactly that gradiated area. East Town Park does to some extent too. So it's not just, it's about, I think as Mike said, there's a gap for people of a certain age in what's being offered.
Yeah.
So I think, does that cover what I'm saying? Is that what you mean? Sorry?
I think we did cover that.
Yeah.
I think that's what we covered. We did mention about the age as well, because they was just looking at the elderly. The football pitches, they're looking for the, you know, the older teenagers, but the park, they was looking for the younger ones. And I see what you mean. We should have, you know, the playthings. We should have, because I think I did mention about the fitness sort of things.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mentioned that on that particular item. Right.
Sorry, can I just add one other thing? I think it's very important. I'm not sure whether to do this. It should be a gated area. Otherwise, you've got problems with a gated area where the playground is. Otherwise, you've got a problem with dogs, all kinds of things. Yeah.
I think that's sort of a done thing. When, you know, it's to stop dogs fouling. Yeah, that's why they have to have that sort of thing. Right. They have to be working as well. You know, the gates have to be working. Right.
Thank you.
Michael, is it on this particular subject that you want to say something, or?
Yes, I just wanted to say that you're having viewed your last discussion about this play area. I think you discussed every possible point about it, and very well. But the most important thing which I got from the meeting was, can West Suffolk and Ipswich please listen to the local people and the local council? Don't give us things that they think we need. Please ask what we need. That ensures that the best available use of our rates is made.
Yeah, that is an absolutely brilliant point. But I'm afraid that doesn't sometimes happen. You know, they do listen in general, I'll give them that. But sometimes when it comes to the rest of the committee, you know, that can go the other way. So we have to bear them sort of things, because I've been disappointed on a lot of things, but then I've been happy on a lot of things. So it's really, really hard, I must admit. And you four, have really contributed a lot. And, you know, I like to listen, and the councillors like to listen, because we do miss some things sometimes, you know, and that's why we like, as being local, we like to hear from you to sort of, you know, to things that we haven't mentioned, for instance, like tonight. Obviously, Councillor Sitchcombe?
I'd just like to ask if district councillors who sit on development control can confirm that Michael's point that no noise restrictions were imposed, or were they imposed, but they're violating them. Thank you.
Councillor Burns?
Yeah, at the meeting, I made a very strong point about the lack of conditions on, and we're talking about 2B now, aren't we? Councillor Smith and I can't remember whether Councillor Crooks was there or not. I can't remember whether I believe they said it was a lot of it was in the outline permission, but what I specifically asked for, which I noticed is not in there, was that is fine, but make sure you add a list of those conditions into the decision notice. That appears to have been ignored again, having just downloaded the document myself. So that is something that I don't know whether we do it as members of that committee, because that, that's actually in the minute, or should be in the minutes of that meeting.
Councillor Burns, do you want us to sort of mention that in this particular vote that we're going to have of Michael?
Well, it's not about either the two applications you discussed last time. This is about 2B. I'm assuming
right.
That's what Councillor Stinchcombe is talking about.
Oh, so that would be for the next planning application when it comes.
No. So that's the one that's already been approved by West Suffolk.
Oh, well, that's.
I think this is probably more of a
letter
administration thing from from us as members to Rachel Armand again.
Okay, then, right. That's another thing that I've got to have a vote on. Right. Okay, Councillor Sexton.
Well, I'm just wondering if this committee, or you, Chair, on behalf of this committee, should be writing again, because did we not get the line before that, oh, well, we always include it in big applications, therefore we don't need to do it on, minor extensions to one house or something like that. We were told to stop fussing about it, weren't we, because they all had it under control, and it looks like they very definitely don't have it under control for a big development, which is really beginning to annoy local residents. Thank you.
Yeah, as a chairman, I can't write an individual letter. It's, I'm chair of the committee, and it's a committee that writes the individual letter. So it's, that's the thing we've got to vote on. So that's the reason why we'll be voting on that particular thing, on that particular letter, and obviously the other one which Michael's mentioned. Right, is there anything else, anybody else? Michael, can I say this is the last time, because we must get on. I'm sorry, Michael.
I appreciate that. At the last Development Control Committee, I did have a look at, there's a proposal for Persimmon Homes at just outside Newmarket at Exning. And if you look at the detail in the provision there for all the additional things about noise, etc., it's all in that one. Why should it not be in 2B? If we don't get it in, it wasn't in fact in 2A. But of course, that doesn't affect us as much because it's in the distance. This new one, and I think Anne will say and agree with it, the ground was vibrating last Saturday. We shouldn't have to put up with that.
Right. Okay. Colin, can you sort of, well, obviously it'd be recorded. Can you make sure that sort of, because we'll be voting on that one as well, about the noise and about the vibrations, the disturbance. See, I don't know if someone can help me here, but I don't know the hours of what they can work on Saturday, because this was on the Saturday, wasn't it, Michael? Yeah. So I don't know if anyone can help me. If they can remember the hours on the Saturday they should be working. Councillor Burns.
Saturday be 0800 to, I believe it's 1300, 8 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock. I'm just going to quickly read out.
Hold on. Sorry, Councillor Burns. So were they working past 1 o'clock?
Yes. Till about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
4:30, 5 o'clock. So that's got to be mentioned as well, isn't it? Because he's working past 1 o'clock time.
Okay, that's an enforcement infringement, but
Yeah, so that be included in the letter. That's what I'm saying. That can be included in the letter if I'm correct.
Let me just.
Am I correct on that? Sorry. I'm back.
Chair, can I just confirm that was this Saturday just gone, which was, I think, the 4th, wasn't it? Yeah.
4th.
Okay.
And that was around about 4:30, you say?
Yes,
5
it was
o'clock?
around about 4:30, I think. 4:30. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
So very quickly,
Thanks,
Chair, can I just read it's only 2 lines. Councillor John Burns raised questions regarding to standard conditions in relation to construction, drainage, etc. In response, the Principal Planning Officer explained that these had been included in the outline permission granted. I didn't go to the last development control, so I would have actually questioned that, because I actually went on and said, yes, but I want those conditions listed as bullet points, not the whole thing, just bullet points in the decision notice, which they have not done for 2B. That's loads of times that they do that.
Can we include that one, Colin, in the letter as well?
We can include whatever you want to include in the letter.
So all them three things for that letter then needs to be included, and obviously the Michael one, we need to include that in the planning application as well on that one. So can I have a proposer and a seconder on that particular Michael one first? Brad, do you want to say? Oh, oh, okay. Yeah, you're not including this. Can I propose a seconder?
Yeah, can we just remind councillors?
Sorry, I'm not proposing, because just a bit of clarification. What are we actually voting on here? Because I can't, I'm not really clear.
Colin,
we've already
hopefully
commented on the application, haven't we? Which we voted for previously. So are we just voting on whether we're going to send a letter or what?
No, we got 2 things. We got this particular planning issue that Michael raised that we didn't raise on the last planning application. Colin, can you confirm?
My understanding is that the issue being discussed at the moment is that our comments that we submitted after the last meeting didn't include comments in respect of the potential for Anne Suckling Road to be a through road, and that wasn't reflected at all in our comments. And we've been asked, and councillors are being asked to vote on whether to agree to add to our original submission, not on the basis that you didn't discuss it or agree that it should be said, but simply it wasn't included in what was written.
And that would be a form of a letter. That would be a form of a letter, right?
No, it'll be an additional submission.
Oh, right.
It's a comment. It's a comment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a letter then. We don't need a letter then.
So
well, I mean, there was a different question. Well, I don't know whether it's really. I mean, you might write a letter to the planning authority if you're unhappy with their procedure. But at the moment, what I've got is an addendum to our original comments, and then also there is a communication to enforcement about the specifically about the working last Saturday, but that's effectively an example, one assumes, because obviously there's no reason to assume they won't continue straight on if as far as they're concerned nobody objected.
But does that need to be in a letter form, or does that need to be in a planning application form?
Well, one is a comment on the planning application. The other is an email to planning enforcement.
Right. Okay. Right. So that's them two. Councillor Smith.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get. So it's 2 separate issues we're talking about. We can't lump them together. So the enforcement issue, isn't that not better coming from the residents themselves? I know we can do it on their behalf, but does it not carry more weight if the residents put their own application, whatever we call it, to the enforcement to sort of complain about it? I mean, more than merrier, I think.
That would be a form of an email from them, won't it, Colin?
Well, there's a thing where parish councils write to planning authorities to say that all the residents are up in arms about something, But in actual fact, the planning authority hasn't heard from any of the residents. So I do agree with Councillor Smith that clearly if the town council is going to write to say that the residents were disturbed, it somewhat adds grist to the mill to actually be able to say, well, the residents have also complained. So we're backing up what the residents said, as opposed to us claiming the residents were annoyed, whereas in fact the residents themselves haven't complained.
Thank you for that. Good. Michael, Christina, and Anne and Brad, did you hear that? Yeah. Right, okay. Michael,
Can I just say that it is difficult for us to complain if the decision is not in the decision. So we can't complain about a practice they are working outside of ours if that was not written into the original planning decision. My point was that it is not in the original planning decision as a comment. Hours of work should have been in that, and in that case, we can then go back to the council enforcement and saying they're not adhering to the plans of the decision. But if it's not there, we can't say anything about it.
Yeah, Colin, can you come up? I thought Councillor Burns mentioned that. He read it out.
Well, I think we need to be clear that it's I think Mr. Ford is referring to the fact he watched or read the notes of the meeting at West Suffolk. That doesn't mean that the planning officers didn't include any conditions. And in any case, anyone can complain about anything to anybody. So there's absolutely nothing to stop Mr. Ford complaining about the disruption, the vibration and the noise continuing through the whole of the weekend or the whole of the Saturday. So regardless, it doesn't stop the complaining, and it's then down to the planning authority to have those discussions with Persimmon, who at the end of the day do not want to ruffle feathers because it will simply make their life more difficult further down the line.
All right, thank you for that. That's hopefully that's cleared it up. Councillor Stitchcombe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a separate proposal, though, that this committee, with under your signature or Colin's signature, writes to the planning authority to support the district councillors on the development control who are struggling, particularly John, struggling to get the things actually written into planning decisions, because this is just a big issue, isn't it? The officers are saying, oh, we do it all the time, and they're not. I mean, that's not an enforcement issue. That's just I don't want to use the L word, but, it's like a misrepresentation issue, isn't it? They say they do something, but actually do they do it? No. So I'd like to propose that a letter says it jumps on the back of what we said about small developments before and says, and by the way, it's not even happening with big developments. Please do this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any comments? That's a proposal. Can I have a seconder to that, please? Can I make it clear, Colin, what Councillor Stitchcombe's just mentioned, this was in with the proposal about the working on the Saturday?
Yes, I think it would be worth us actually checking the planning decision to see whether or not they really didn't include any planning conditions. If they didn't, then it's outrageous and absolutely 100% there should be a complaint in, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Michael says it hasn't, so we still need to check it though, just for our sakes.
Chair, it's only simply because, as we found at the beginning of this discussion, as is always the case with these big applications, they're salami sliced. So there's dozens of different planning applications under different numbers, and it becomes really very difficult for us who are looking at a development in its entirety to know precisely what permission for what is being given at any one particular point of time, because it's, for the layman, it's very difficult to slide cigarette papers between these things. But for developers, it's a tactic to get their permissions one by one, collect them all, just wear everybody else down. And after a while, you don't know where you are. And I feel like the discussion this evening has demonstrated very neatly exactly the reason developers do it like this, and exactly the reason why we need to be really firm. And if that means sending in addendums and complaints and whatever, then unfortunately we'll need to play the same war of attrition that the developers play.
Very well done, Colin. Yes, entirely agree with you. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, just very quickly, add on to what Colin just said, is the decision notice for phase 2B. I haven't looked at one again on 2A. Specifically does not, and I repeat that, include any of the conditions that were on the outline permission, which to do with construction, despite my staying at that meeting on the whatever date it was, 4th of August. I didn't attend the 3rd of September one, unfortunately, as I mentioned, or 1st of September when it was, for other reasons, so I couldn't comment on it at the time. And I probably should have picked up on that at the time. I didn't see the decision notice until it was mentioned tonight. Yeah,
thank you. That backs up what Mr. Ford said. So, right, okay. So Councillor Stitcham is proposed that. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Dave Smith. All those in favour, please show. Is there anyone against? No, right, it's carried. Right, the second one is what Mr. What's the second one, Colin? Help me. Oh, you're muted.
There's two more. One is Suckling Way, and the other is the enforcement notice.
Right, thank you. Next one will be Suckling Way, about the parking. Can I have a proposer for that one, please? Brad, I'm really sorry. Is this very important on that particular one?
Yeah, it's just that it's Suckling Road, and it gets changed every time everybody mentions it.
Right.
There's Suckling Way, Suckling Lane.
Yeah.
And it becomes confusing.
I've lived in Haverhill too long, I think. That's why, because it has been changed.
Really?
It's Suckling Road, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
Right, thank you.
That's it, thank you.
Someone's shaking their head and something. Right, okay. And Suckling Road. Can I have a proposer for this one, please? Councillor Liz Smith. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dave Smith. All those in favour, please show. Is there any against? One against, right, thank you. Right, do you want to have named Councillor Crooks? Do you object, or?
Well, I think the whole process tonight has been a bit bizarre, to be honest. But yeah, there's no need to note my objection. But yeah, it's on video. But the whole process is bizarre. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Right, and the third one, Colin.
Well, the third one is the question of writing to enforcement regarding the incident on the 4th of September.
Thank you. Can I have a proposer for that, please? I'll propose it. And can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Dave Smith. All those in favour, please show. Okay. Anyone against? No? Right, okay. Right, thank you for that. And thank you for Michael and Christine, and thank you, Anne and Brad. You can stay if you wish, or, you know, it's a long meeting, long night, because we've got planning applications to go through, but you can. No?
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
If you don't want to stay, good night, and thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Thank you. Right, the next one is item 8, which is consider planning applications. And the first one is application 1, which is DC 21 1556 ADV, one non-illuminated fascia sign, 74 High Street. Is there any comments on this one? This is a nail bar. So I've got it correct or not? No, I've got a bit of a comment. It's on the DC 18 2510 FUL on the 8th of November. It was decided by delegated powers to allow it with the 4 parking spaces in the back garden. The only trouble is and what this application is about is changing the door, the access door from the back garden to the front, at the front. And my concern will be that if people are not accessing the back, they will think it's just, you just can go in from the front. So they won't know that there's parking spaces at the back, especially new ones, new people. And that's my concern. Obviously, I'll come to it and see what they got about that. Councillor Brown, and obviously that entail parking issues on the roads around the back. They won't be using the 4 spaces at the back garden. Sorry, yeah. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, my wife works opposite there, and I'm in that area quite often, and I've never seen those gates, all the time that nail bar's been there, I've never seen those gates open. And that's supposed to be the access for the parking, you know, for the people that use that, you know, premises, and the gates, they're shut all the time.
That's ridiculous. Thank you for that. Thank you. Councillor Rucarini?
Yeah, just some background. This application has come about because I put a complaint in to enforcement based on the fact that the gates weren't open and clients weren't able to park on site, and the fact they were using the door that goes over their neighbour's property to allow people into the business, which again, the officer, when they decided on this application, they didn't want to happen. So it's strange why they just haven't gone back to using the rear door as they originally proposed.
Yeah, that's why I said, that's why it's ridiculous, you know, because if we agree to that front door, they will never ever use that back door and use them 4 parking spaces, and that would just create more problems on the streets, surrounding streets. It's crazy. Councillor Burns?
Basically, they've moved out of a shop opposite into a house opposite, and now decided they want it to make it into a shop again. That's all it is. You know, as you rightly say, that as Councillor Brown and Lucrini says, never have I seen those gates open. They, you know, it's basically they've tried to put a house in the background, which was rejected. They're just trying everything they can to make that into a shop, and I think personally, I'd object to it strongly if it came before development control. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm proposing that we reject this, and we should make note that they should be using the parking spaces at the back as proposed before delegated powers were introduced. Not to, you know, object to this. To object to this because they should be using that back door. If they don't use that back door, they won't use the parking spaces. So it just creates problems. Because that's one of the reasons why they got that originally, because they had 4 parking spaces at the back. Councillor Liz Smith?
Yeah, there's 2 applications here, isn't there, on the list? The first one is the sign. So I think we obviously need to bear in mind which ones we're going to object to. Yeah. If we are.
Sorry, I do apologise. Yeah. I'm taking both into account really.
Yeah, I think the sign probably isn't a big issue. No. But obviously there's the issues you've raised about the access through the front way. So I just wanted to raise that point. That's all. Yeah.
Quite correctly as well, and I shouldn't have been talking about that particular one. I should have been talking that on the next application. So I do apologise for that. I think we should go back just to the signs really, and I'm neutral on the sign. I don't know about the committee. Is there anything, any mention from anyone? If they've got any problems with that about the sign? Councillor Davison?
No problem, but the sign is already up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. They seem to think that they can do anything, these people, and it's just not fair. It's just not right. Councillor Lucrini?
Yeah, the sign was reported as well, but West Suffolk enforcement were absolutely useless. It took several emails before I even got a response back. When I chased for an update, no response. And then out of the blue, a planning application appeared.
Oh, do you think we should sort of write a letter about that? You know, we can only do our best, can't we? Colin, can we put that in our objection to this if we, you know, the next application, if we do object to it?
You can put anything you want into your response, but it's worth saying that from an enforcement point of view, if they would have given permission for a sign anyway, there is no enforcement if the sign happens to have already been put up.
Oh, so
well, that's the judgment they make. They say, would we have given planning permission, yes or no? If the answer is yes, then there is no enforcement action to take. If you think about it, that's common sense.
Yeah. Yeah, but it still isn't right, is it?
Oh,
because
it sticks in the throat because other people pay their money, put an application in, wait for due process, and then do the work. Other people just go straight ahead. And these people, rather strangely, have gone straight ahead and still paid. So, go figure.
Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Cooney?
Yeah, I think that's why enforcement didn't take action on the sign, because it's likely it'll get approved. It's just annoying the fact that when a planning application comes forward, people get consulted on it. And if the attitude of the district council is, well, it was going to get permission anyway, well, how do you know? Because someone could come forward with a really good reason why that shouldn't be the case. We're skipping that consultation process.
Yeah. Yeah, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we need to say something, surely.
Yes, there's absolutely it'll be ignored, but you'll feel better for having said it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think we've got some nods there, yeah. Yeah. Right, we need to vote on that, don't we, Colin?
If yes.
Yeah. Councillor Brown? You're muted, sorry.
Sorry, I propose that we do as you've just said. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Davison? Okay, all those in favour, please show. Yep, it's everyone. Thank you. Right, next one is application 2, which is DC 21 1555 FUL, amended customer access door to the High Street to ground floor now station, 74 High Street. And I've just, you noted what I've said about the 4 parking spaces. Right. Any other comments on that about, whether the door should, because I'm proposing that the door, we should object to this and the door should stay at the back because of the reasons of what I said, which was people will not go to the back to use parking spaces and it will cause problems on these nearby streets. In other words, on-road parking. Councillor Stitchcombe and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's not an enforcement issue forcing them to keep their gate open, but I think we should mention that as well, that we want people to continue to use the rear entrance that they've already got permission for, and that the gate should be kept open. I think we should just state that, although it's not actually material to this application. Thank you.
Yeah, so right. They've got to get into a habit of opening the gates when they open their shop. That's the thing. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I think we should refer back to the original application. That was the reason that the rear door, we pushed for the rear door to be used and not the front, the one at the front of the house. So let's just go back to the original application and we can rehash the words on that.
Yeah, that'd be included in the written written objection. Right, thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? My proposal, Councillor Sitchcombe. Right, all those in favour, please show. That's everyone. Thank you. Application 3, which is DC 21-1659 TCA 1 Sycamore, which is the brackets T1 on plan. Sorry for that. Right. This is 1 Sycamore T1 on plan, crown reduction by 5 metres and crown lift by 4 metres. 6 Cheney pieces. Is there any comments on that, please? No? Are we neutral then on this one? Can I have a proposal, please, for neutral? Councillor Sitchcombe, and seconded proposal, and seconded by Councillor Liz-Smith. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Right, application 4, which is DC 21-0663, FUL, 4 dwellings, associated works, access and landscaping. This is the bungalow, Crowland Road. Right, can I have any comments on this, please? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. According to strategic housing, this is a major development. It's 4 houses. I think on principle, until we get health provisions sorted in Haverhill, that we should object on principle to any major development in the town. And we've got to send a signal out that enough is enough. Residents are absolutely up in arms around the health provision in this town. And I think we should just object on principle to any major development from now on. And we've got to send a signal. We haven't got much of a voice, but it's a voice we can do. So I propose objection on that point.
Sorry, I've muted it because of this dog, my dog. Councillor Creaney?
Yeah, I'm happy to second Tony. It's also just worth pointing out that we objected to this last time, and I don't think any of our objections have been addressed.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Smith?
Yeah, no, the agent's responses to the objections that were raised, and it's all really skirting around the edges of things. I think it's sort of I suppose legally they're correct, but I think morally we need to object to this again. I mean, because looking at the application, there's been a few minor changes, but it's pretty much the same application, really.
Yeah, I just might to add that I looked and there's only 7 parking spaces. There should be 10 minimum. That's without the visitors. Sorry, that you didn't hear that. I don't know why. I must have clicked it twice. I was going to say there's 7 parking spaces that I can see on that application. There should be 10 minimum. That doesn't include visitors car park, although they put it on their visit. There's a place for visit car park, so it's 6 plus 1. I can't see any other unless I've missed it. Councillor Luke Green, and then I'll come to Councillor Sitchcombe. Is that sort of what I've just mentioned?
Yeah, there's 2 spaces in tandem in the rear garden of number 4. Have you missed those?
Is that so? Does that mean there's 9?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I apologise. I must have missed that.
But they are in tandem, which probably isn't ideal.
No, it's not. Right. Okay. So that needs to be mentioned as well. Really, I there's just not enough parking spaces, because that's what the objections were on the original applications, was the parking, because that is terrible for parking around that area. Councillor Sitcombe and then Councillor Crooks.
I pass, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Crooks.
I personally don't think Crowland Road can take any more traffic. Since Camps Road has been shut off, the amount of cars on Crowland Road that are meeting because of parked cars each side of the road is ridiculous. Until we can get Camps Road back open again, we cannot have any developments along that road because the road network just can't take it at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, have you got all them? Oh, well, it'd be on the video in any case. So, Vicky, hopefully you've got them comments, and once you watch this, and then that can be put on Is that okay with your proposal, Councillor Brown? What's been proposed? Yeah, to your proposal to add to it. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, can I have a seconder for Councillor Brown's proposal? Oh, sorry, we have. Yes, Councillor Luccarini seconded it, didn't he? Right. Okay. All those in favour, please show. Yep, that's everyone. Thank you very much. Councillor Liz Smith, have you said something? No? Oh, okay. Right, okay. Right, next one. Which is item application 5, which is DC 21 1564 FUL, all-weather multi-use games area, which is called Mugger, on existing school field, Burton End Primary Academy, School Lane. Any comments on this application? No? Are we neutral then? Oh, Councillor Dave Smith, is that proposal for neutral?
As we approve it.
Okay. Oh,
well,
you want to approve?
Or whatever, whatever the terminology is.
Well, it's neutral, or what's the other? I can't remember what the other one is when we
support.
Yeah, is it support? Someone help me.
Yeah, support.
Right. So, do you want to say you support it, or yeah? Right. Councillor Dave Smith is proposing we support it. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Support. Any against? No. Councillor Sitcombe.
Chair, I should have declared an interest as I'm a governor of the school, so I'm going to abstain on this one out of utter scrupulousness. Thank you.
Okay. Right, thank you for that. Application 6, which is DC 21 1620 TPO, and this is TPO 521 2011 in brackets, tree preservation order, 1 beach on plan, reduce lateral spread overhanging the back garden to fence boundary, lift crown to 3 metres above ground level, Haverhill Housing Partnership. Before I sort of take comments on this particular one, can I ask for advice? Why does the Chalkstone estate have a preservation order? And can I ask a question? Do other estates have preservation orders? The reason I'm asking that is because my fear is that Haverhill will only trim trees as if they are dangerous, and because West Suffolk District Council will only trim trees if they are dangerous. And my fear is that Haverhill because it's costs, because they have to put an application in, will do the same. That is my fear. And I want to ask advice, do other estates have this preservation order on it? Councillor Greeny?
The Strawberry Fields estate, for example, has an estate-wide TPO.
Okay. What about, the Clements estate, and what about because there's loads of other estates, isn't there? See, this is my fear, is that because West Suffolk has adopted this no trimming back unless it's dangerous, my fear is it's going to be the same, and we won't get this type of application in unless it's dangerous. Because I don't know if you've looked at the photos, that tree and them trees are forest trees. They shouldn't be. They should be much smaller trees on estates like this, because that area is so dark. If people sort of want to walk around the Chalston, they'll see some of these trees, and it really puts doom and gloom. But obviously, there's a lot of people that love having trees, but these are just overbearing and overpowering, as far as I'm concerned. Right, Councillor Crooks, and then Councillor Burns.
I don't know about statewide TPOs, but many trees have a TPO in their own right. On the Clements estate, we have some absolutely wonderful oak trees. I don't know if they've got TPOs on them, but we've got magnificent oak trees up there at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know what obviously this one's not oak. Know that, but it's massive, absolutely massive. You can see on the photos. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, I mean, Haverhill, in my opinion, whenever I've asked them to do something with the tree, have responded very well. Trouble is, Haverhill bought all these trees without knowing they were buying these trees in 2002. Like they bought a load of land they didn't know they owned for several years. And so there are still trees even today, which I've pointed out to them after I've done investigation, that didn't have their Haverhill markers on the tree, because every Haverhill tree's got a marker on it to show it's their tree. But every one that I have done, they've come around very quickly and have pruned it if necessary. Sometimes it's not necessarily the I'm not an expert on tree cutting, so they're the ones who do it, but I've never had a problem with it. The one with West Suffolk has been a policy that they introduced several years ago, basically not to cut trees for that reason, that they primarily because the cost of doing so. But equally, they're not very good about telling residents what they illegally can do either, and that's so the document that David Roach sent out earlier today, which was at the last Dev Control meeting, goes some way to explaining that. But so from my own experience, I've never had a problem with Haverhill on that. They do respond.
No, that's the thing. That's my fear, that because of the cost, that they haven't got as much money as West Suffolk, and they've done that because of cost. And my fear is Haverhill will do it because of cost, and that's the thing. If we can sort of make it so they don't have to have, especially a statewide, it's a statewide. As Councillor Crook said, if it had been an oak tree, a lovely oak tree on a particular tree, fine. But to put a carte blanche, a statewide preservation, it is. I think it's ridiculous, personally. Is there Councillor Cooney and then Councillor Dave Smith?
Are you sure it's a statewide for the Chalston?
Well, it seems because we seem to have a lot of applications from.
Yeah, I can't see that, Pat. It's worth looking as district councillors. If you go onto the West Suffolk intranet, we have access to the GIS mapping system, and you can see on there all of the TPOs in town, all the individual TPOs and the TPO areas. It might be worth having a look.
See, this particular, why they've got a TPO on this particular one?
Because, sorry, Chair, can I just interrupt? The reason being that these were inherited from St Edmundsbury Borough Council nearly 20 years ago. And so, what's happening is they have TPOs from that long ago. And, you can't remove, unless a tree is diseased, you can't remove a TPO from that thing, because it would fell it anyway. And that's the reason why they've all, not every, if you look at, as Councillor Carini says, there's loads of trees that don't have TPOs on them around town.
Okay.
Sorry, thank
you. Yeah, I just thought it was a statewide. I really did. Right, I'll have a look on that particular, as Councillor Carini said, that particular area. Right, Anne Stitchcombe. Councillor Stitchcombe.
I'm not aware of that particular tree or quite how big it is, but if it is of the sort of size that you're indicating, I suspect it was there before the estate was built.
Yeah, you haven't got your mic on, Councillor Stitchcombe.
Yeah, Councillor Burns just mentioned that.
Well, sorry, that it was pre-existing the estate.
Yeah.
Sorry, I clearly didn't hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, your mic is still very low.
Oh, sorry, wrong position of the switch. Yeah, sorry, I clearly didn't hear what or wasn't paying proper attention. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Davison, you're muted. Okay.
Sorry, I was just trying to tell Alan that we couldn't hear him. But I mean, I agree with Councillor Lucarini. This is just for one particular tree, and in my view, it should be a neutral. And thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I do apologise. I really thought it was because there seems to be a lot coming from the chalks, and that's what made me think it's a whole lot. And I shouldn't have done. I should have looked at the particular sheet first. Right, as Councillor Lucarini said, Councillor Dave Smith.
I think generally speaking, is if they're in conservation areas, they get TPO automatically put on them. So it's strange if it's just in the middle of the estate. I think what we've got to be aware of, I mean, we're sort of getting tree wardens, aren't we? And we've got to be wary. We're getting a lot of trees that are being pruned back, and I know we've agreed to some tonight, but we don't want to be overdoing this. I know we may have the wrong trees in the wrong place or whatever, but we do need to protect these trees.
Yeah, and I'm all for replacing trees if they have to come down. Sorry, if they have to come down, I fully, it should be replaced by another tree. But what I'm saying is these particular trees that were put in originally, because when I was a borough councillor last time, I had some of the trees taken away and replaced by smaller trees because they were put in sort of groups of 6 or 7 right by people's houses, and it was just making them so dark. And they did replace them and spread them out. They spread them more out, but put smaller trees in. Councillor Stitchcombe?
You may have misunderstood the point I was trying to make earlier, that I think the trees were on, say, field boundaries before anyone colonised that part of Haverhill. Therefore, what would you do when you're, approving a planning permission? You would put a tree preservation order on the nicest trees, wouldn't you? Because they're an asset, or so you think. But you can equally make a mistake. You can make an asset of a tree that is just too bloody big, when you're trying to build houses anywhere near it, unless it's in the middle of a play area, a park area. So I can sort of see why it happens. I mean, surely we're going to have potentially tree preservation orders on new estates, as Haverhill grows, aren't we? I don't know if we've got any on Persimmon land at the moment, but we almost, Councillor Burns is nodding, and no doubt there will be odd ones up on North East as well. But the point is, they are assets and people will try and preserve them, but they will make mistakes as well. The trouble is, you revoking a tree preservation order once it's already exists is probably virtually impossible. Thank you.
So,
yeah, good point. Councillor Burns?
Just very quickly on what Councillor Stitchcombe just said. Great Willsey, North East, has just recently had a whole load of preservation orders implemented on it for that very reason. North West never did, because it was never in the outline planning permission. Thank you.
Yeah, so obviously that's I entirely agree with what Councillor Stitcham has just said. You know, if that's sort of, if they're building a house round a tree, this sort of problem is going to come up constantly, isn't it? Because as they grow, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And these lovely oak trees, you know, they spread and spread and spread. They're lovely, lovely trees. And these people just got to bear in mind not to build a house right next to a big, lovely oak tree or a small oak tree. That's the thing which will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Right, okay. Councillor Stitcham is proposing neutral on this. Councillor Davison, are you second that? Or do you want to speak?
No, I propose neutral.
Right, second neutral. I think.
I already proposed neutral.
Sorry, I apologise. I thought it was Councillor Stitcham who proposed.
I'll second it then.
Right, I apologise. Right, okay. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, that's everyone. Thank you. And that is the end. Right, next item is matters to report. Anyone got matters to report? No? Right, thank you very much. The next meeting is on the 21st of this month. Okay. Councillor Brown?
I don't want to bring all this up again, but it's alluding to what Councillor Crook said earlier. That meeting we just had was a bit bizarre earlier on. We seem to be working back through, you know, stuff that we'd already had. It didn't seem, you know, right to me. We seem to be going over stuff that had already been decided, etc., etc. It just didn't make a lot of sense. You know, I don't know.
See, that's because they didn't attend the last meeting.
Yeah,
and we will get that. You know, we might get that in the future. We might not. But I think that.
Can I just say we're still recording this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're talking about things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, before, you know, that it possibly should have been an agenda item. We seem to be discussing other stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's not, you know, for me to decide, but, you know, I did agree with what Councillor Crook said. It just seemed, you know, a bit bizarre the way, you know, things went. I don't know, you know. Yeah.
Well, there wasn't any.
Councillor Crook, can you sort of reply to that? Because we only heard the bizarre bit. We didn't know what you actually meant, I suppose.
I was thinking about the procedure. The residents said they were unhappy with Anne Suckling Road being open. We had no debate on the actual issue at all. A vote was proposed and everybody voted on it. You know, there should have been a proper debate. I actually think it should have gone to the next meeting to discuss the application in full, so we could have looked at the plans again. But just to allow residents to run the meeting and agree with what they say, I thought it was strange myself.
Okay, Councillor Stitcham.
Well, I thought we were only agreeing to reapply comments, add comments that we felt were appropriate to existing comments, and the other things were more to do. The other two issues were to do with noise, which is a perfectly valid thing for us to get involved with. It's not. It doesn't need to be an agenda item, does it necessarily, for us to just, or perhaps it does. I mean, perhaps Colin can advise. Perhaps we shouldn't suddenly add to the agenda. Perhaps it needs to be proposed as an agenda item for the next meeting, as Councillor Crooks has said. Thank you.
Colin, can you?
Well, the discussion, as I recall, was that councillors seemed to be accepting of the fact that the submission that the town council made on the back of the debate that took place wasn't fully representative, and councillors accepted that that we had omitted the part about Anne Suckling Road, and that's why that bit got added in. In terms of the response to a planning enforcement matter, I think almost by
Yes, I fully agree. Councillor Crooks?
Can I just change the subject? Just a silly question. It is a silly question. The high street, the lighting at night and in the evenings, is it me, or is it dark in our high street? Apart from outside the arts centre is beautiful, but the main drag of the high street, it's dark. I even saw some old age pensioners using a torch in our high street. Well, why would you use a torch? It's because it just seems dark to me. Queen Street, that's beautifully lit, but I'm just thinking, is it me, or is it dark, or is it not dark? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the drawback of LEDs. LEDs seem to concentrate the light. It doesn't spread out. It doesn't, for instance, if you go up in an aircraft, you can't particularly see that particular light, whereas you can see other lights that just spread out. That's the thing.
If those LEDs go up past the arts centre, if they replace the ones in front of the arts centre, we've got a problem, because it's almost pitch black. So we're going to have to fight it if they want to put LEDs in front of the arts centre. You have a look next time you're down there. At night, it's shocking the amount of difference of light between the two places. Well, I should get a light meter really and have a proper look.
Yeah, LEDs can be changed and make them brighter. It's just there is ways of doing that sort of thing. Councillor O'Kearney?
Yeah, it is dark, but Suffolk County Council should never have taken away our nice street lights and replaced them with horrible grey poles. We had lovely street lights down the high street before, all gone.
Yeah. Right, is there any... Councillor Crooks, you want to come back?
No, I just wondered if it was my imagination, but it really is. It really is noticeable. I notice it all the time, because when you drive down there, your headlights are lighting up the road because it's so dark, Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, okay. Any more comments? No? Right, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending.